Hey guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and Android keeps coming to US Cellular. The LG Apex in the house, we're going to do a full review. It's another Android device on the regional carrier, and it has a full QWERTY keyboard, just like the Samsung Acclaim. So it's a nice keyboard, nice mid-range device. Is it the best Android device to get on US Cellular, particularly when the Desire's out, the Acclaim, the Optimus U, several other Android devices are on the carrier? Which one's the best? Is it the Apex? Who knows? We'll find out in the review. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. They've hooked us up with a bunch of devices. Can't hook us up with US Cellular devices because they don't sell US Cellular, but they've hooked us up with a bunch so we can give them to you in our One Paw Bandit game. One thing I like about Best Buy Mobile, when you walk in, you don't have to deal with rebates. You walk out, you don't have to deal with messy paperwork, waiting 8 to 10 weeks. You walk in, you get that $199 price out the door and don't have to worry about mailing it back. So pretty cool there at Best Buy Mobile. Enough of that. Let's get into the review. Android powered another Android phone in 2010, US Cellular, LG Apex. Let's take a look. So here it is, one of US Cellular's newest Android devices in 2010. Now if it looks familiar, it is. It's the LG Ally, but it's rebranded with some different color schemes, the US Cellular logo, and then a couple other things to make it the US Cellular Apex. So it's the LG Apex with US Cellular, and you can see it's maroon instead of the typical colors of the LG Ally on Verizon. But keyboard still there, 3-megapixel camera still there. Other specs include 600 megahertz processor, Android 2.1, 3.2-inch LCD display, and loads of fun as well. You can see on the bottom typical 4 Android capacitive buttons: menu, home, back, and search, and then physical send and end keys, which those are cool to have down there. You know, now if you remember my review of the LG Ally a couple of months back and the event when I was there in New York City, it was a laggy device. It was laggy out of the gate. I thought it was laggy when I reviewed it, and unfortunately, you know, my testing with the Apex, it exhibits the exact same thing, or exact same issues. That said, you know, if you're looking for a first-time smartphone, this might be the one for you. But it's running Android 2.1. You can see on the right side, typical micro SD card slot, your camera shortcut button on the left spine, volume rocker, and micro USB charging port, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the top. Now the difference with this one excuse me, is it's running a couple of LG customizations that weren't on the Apex or weren't on the Ally when it came out. You can see some LG customized widgets like the Charlotte weather widget up here. You can see things like Facebook and Twitter widgets where you can flip back and forth between those and see your updates in real time. And then you can see things like messaging, bookmarks, and things of that nature. So quite a few widgets to choose from in addition to the stock Android widgets. Let's try to find a blank screen. We'll just delete this one and take a look at the widgets while we're thinking about it. In here you see some LG customized ones: alarm clock, battery life, which is one that I've installed, bookmarks, calendar, dual clock, Facebook, typical Google ones like Latitude, but then you have LG Socialite, which is their social aggregation software where you can pool your Facebook and your Twitter things together. It's actually the widget we just deleted. You can see there on the screen. So that widget is available. LG's messaging widget, which we saw a second ago on one of the other home screens, and then picture frame, power control, typical Google stuff, search, weather, and YouTube. When you get into the menu, very similar, you know, very stock, for the most part, build of Android 2.1 with the exception of a couple of US Cellular pre-installed programs. Things like My Contacts Backup, MySpace, well, I mean, MySpace is on there, but nobody really uses MySpace, so that doesn't count. My Contacts Backup, US Cellular's Tone Room, and then Your Navigator, which is their Telenav, their branded version of Telenav for GPS. So you have those. Other than that, it's a pretty clean build of Android 2.1. So you have 5 home screens, the typical Android layout, and you can quickly scroll through those, or you can go down to the little bubbles in the bottom and you can select one and jump to it. So pretty simple there. Let's take a look at the messaging app and take a look at the keyboard. Start up a new message, and you see you have the on-screen keyboard, and it's the typical Android keyboard as well. But just again, you know, very laggy screen, very laggy in terms of responsiveness. I can't type on this thing. The Quick Brown Fox is going to fail. So you can just see, I mean, just terrible typing experience, in my opinion. Now, the physical QWERTY, on the other hand, it's a 4-row physical QWERTY with a D-pad over here, and then you have your home and your menu, and then back shortcuts at the top as well. It's a pretty decent keyboard. I don't know that I care that much for the raised buttons. Let me wait for that to focus in. It's definitely tactile and definitely feels good, but you know, when you look at that versus something like a G2, the keyboard on the G2, or the Droid 2, or some of these other high-end smartphones, it's a much better experience on the keyboard front. Now that said, you know, these are $200 devices, and this is $79.99 after an $80 mail-in rebate. So something to keep in mind there, but still it's pretty decent. And you can see I'll jump back here. Let's start where we left off. The Quick Brown Fox. Fox needs a beer. Quick Brown Fox needs a beer. So you can see, quick and easy to type on. The keys are curved depending on what side you're typing on. If you're typing on this side, they're raised that way. If you're typing on the right side, they're raised slightly that way. Now, one of the frustrations I have with these keyboards, and I've called it out in a bunch of videos, I can't stand when it's not a dedicated spacebar. The spacebar is down with the letters. So, a typical computer keyboard, you're used to having a row down here with Control, Option, Command, Space, things of that nature. On this, you don't. It goes straight back to the letter. So it's a little bit frustrating to use something like this versus something like the Epic 4G or like the T-Mobile G2. Again, I hate to keep bringing that back in because it's not a dogfight, but you get the idea of having a dedicated row versus the one with letters. So frustrating there. It may not bother you guys, but it was bother some of you, but it frustrated me. The D-pad's down here as well, and then you can navigate through the menu from these you can scroll back. You can hit OK. Scroll back. And go to home. And so you can do a lot from the keyboard. You can scroll around using the D-pad, and you can go through your icons, and you can individually open, let's say, the gallery, bring that up. And when I want to go home, I can click home. So you can do a lot of navigation without closing the device, or if you want to keep it compact, you can do it like that. So on the topic of messaging, let's take a look at the Gmail application. And because this is running Android 2.1, it's not running 2.2 or 2.3. It doesn't have the updated Gmail app that you've seen in past videos if you've been watching the Nexus S or the Evo 4G or the Epic or any of those updates where it shows off the new Gmail. You can see, for example, we'll go into Google Buzz here, and you can see the header is the old style header, and it doesn't move. It doesn't have those shortcut buttons on the top right-hand corner, and when you go up, it doesn't stay at the top like the headers in 2.2 and 2.3. It's not able to be downloaded from the Android market on Android 2.1. So it's not a huge deal, and again, if you're not coming from Android 2.2, I guess you can't miss what you didn't have in the first place. But, reviewing these devices, you kind of hope that some of these programs will be backtracked even further back, like 2.1, 1.6, 1.5. So, excuse me. So that's, that's a frustration, but still plenty of Gmail functionality in this. You do have the ability to add more than one account should you want to, and, the only challenge there is with this version versus some of the newer versions, you can't just click on the Gmail part up here. So minor thing, not a big deal, but it'd be kind of cool to have that as a download in the Android market. On the topic of the Android market, that has been updated, and that's being pushed back to devices as old as devices that are running Android 1.6. So if you're running 1.6, 2.1, 2.2, or 2.3, you should get the revised Android market. You can see it's minor cosmetic changes, but still this whole header part's been redesigned. There's the carousel up top where you can scroll through the applications. We'll land on Google Voice, for example. You can scroll through all of those, and then you can select, and they're still categorized in their typical form. You can go down through here and click top free or just in. Let's see here, top free. And that's pretty cool. One of the biggest features that I liked about it, not only the aesthetic changes, but let's say you go into Google Maps and let's turn it. I just think from a design perspective, it's significantly improved over the old Android market. You see a very clean landscape mode, a very clean portrait mode, and looks good, and everything's very organized with description, with your reviews, and then with pre-written reviews, so in related programs. So it's nice to have it. It's a cool touch. It's actually not on the Nexus S yet. My demo unit actually has not gotten the new market yet, so that's pretty funny. But even Android 2.1 devices can take advantage of that. That's coming in the coming weeks, and it's being pushed to devices each and every day for the coming weeks. So if you haven't gotten it yet, and you're running a device that's capable, you should get it in the coming days. So pretty cool there. Otherwise, the phone app has been modified to LG's. It's an LG modification, and you can see it's not the typical Android phone app. It's big, these kind of big bubbly buttons. Voicemail call end on the bottom, call log down here, contacts, favorites. So the tabs are very similar, but you can see just some aesthetic changes. I don't have any favorites, but call log. I don't have any favorites. Somebody likes me, but you can go to Billy Bob, for example. Call from there, and it's the typical Android, where you can call or message from one screen. But aesthetically, it's slightly different with some color changes, tab differences there, larger buttons. So again, minor things. You can use that in landscape mode as well, or with the keyboard open as well if you'd like to. But Not huge, but again, with those LG customizations, it's some new things that you didn't see on the older one, even though that was on the Ally. But some minor new things and things you don't see, on some of the other Android 2.1 devices. LG's done a pretty decent job. I do have to give them kudos for one thing. I don't care for the lag of this device, but it's nice to see some customizations where it doesn't completely destroy the Android experience. You can see up top, it's still the gray bar. It's still the kind of drab color over here. Messaging is still the stock messaging app. It's not like TouchWiz where it's a modified messaging app. So some nice touches there, and it's they've done a good job of preserving it, but adding their own little tweaks and things like that.